Hi, everybody. Dave Stevens here. And yes, we are doing a tribute today to the legendary John Madden. I had the opportunity at ESPN to be around him a few times at Super Bowls and various Monday Night Football events. And it was always amazing to just see him. I mean, you work with Chris Berman and then you're around John Madden, two of the biggest icons in the history of sports and broadcasting, and for a legend like John Madden as a coach. But I want to bring in today a friend of mine, a guy that has been on the sidelines, has been on the field, and has also knows Coach Madden quite well. My old buddy, my favorite football player of all time, legendary Rocky Bleier, a four-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Rocky, I always like telling your story. Everyone knows about the rings and the running and all that with you and Franco Harris, but how you got your start, and just tell everybody out there, thanks for joining us again for a little bit, but just tell us about your story before we get into Coach Madden.
Okay, a little bit about my story was that I got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers back in 1968, a very highly touted 16th round draft choice. There were 17 rounds. At least I was not the last guy picked. I was the 417th person picked in the draft that year. But fortunately, I was one of four rookies that made the team in 1968. But also, as we well know, historically, at the same time, there was a conflict going over in Vietnam, and the Vietnam War was taking place, and a lot of us, meaning my generation, were drafted and or enlisted to fight in that war. And I got drafted out of Pittsburgh after the 10th game of the season, and found myself in the Army, and then eventually over in Vietnam. After about 4.5 months, I got wounded over in Vietnam twice, same day action, and grenade got shot, and a grenade blew up and through my legs. And so the prognosis was that I would not be able to come back and play this game because of the injuries that had taken place, and eventually given an opportunity to come back with the Steelers, several operations. I got a chance to hang around for a couple of years. The Rooney family put me in injured reserve when I came back, and I had another operation. And then the following year, I made the taxi squad. So they kind of bought me 2 years to heal, get bigger, stronger. That was a turning point, and I got a chance then to eventually break into the backfield, and played in Super Bowls 9, 10, 13, and 14, and got 12 years in the NFL, and eventually retired. But that's quickly and brief. That's my story.
In a nutshell, and there you leave out so many amazing things. And as I've had to deal with the things that I've had to overcome, and most people would consider what you went through as a disability, but you've been able to overcome it. I mean, how do you tell people you had that fortitude? Did you know you had this ability to overcome what most people would just sit around and go, I'm done. I'm just gonna become a fisherman.
Well, I think the biggest thing in our lives when we are faced with challenges is what is your mindset? What do you want to get accomplished? Or do you give in? And Lou Holtz, the famed coach at Notre Dame, had a saying. It said, "I don't think God put you on this earth to be mediocre." And I thought, not that it had an influence, but I thought it makes so much sense. So what do you do with your life is really up to you. I mean, and so in my case specifically, and not to take this away from you, but in my case specifically, I go like, all right, fine. My thought process was, well, hey, I didn't lose a leg. I didn't lose a limb. I've been hurt before playing sports like we all have. So eventually, what do we learn? Well, it hurts when you get hurt. Then you see a doctor. Then it starts to heal, and you rehab, and eventually you go back and play. We've done it in the neighborhood. We played in the backyard or in organized sports and so on. So that was kind of a thought process. And my case, it was just that. It's going to take some time. So you look at it and you have to do what you have to do and start getting your body back in shape. But you got to go through the process to begin with. And that's a healing process. But it's a mindset of what you want to get accomplished rather than just giving up and saying, oh, woe is me. It's, outside of my control. We don't do that.
Well, you talk about that mindset, and the reason you did join me today is to talk a little bit about John Madden. And, that play is probably in folklore the biggest play in the history of the NFL. There's been great plays. There's been onside kicks. There's been all these, all kinds of great, Hail Marys and everything like that. But what that meant at the moment and what it created for the rest of your life has been that legacy. So you're forever connected with John Madden. And what I want to do not right now is for all those fans out there that don't know what this Immaculate Reception was, I'm going to play a little bit of that. You're going to see somebody familiar, and then Rocky and I will talk a little bit about the legend, the coach, John Madden.
Still 10 to go. Pittsburgh's ball at their own 40-yard line. 22 seconds left to play. Situation like this, of course, is all to the advantage of the defense. Bradshaw must put it in the air. Back goes Bradshaw. He's looking. He's in trouble back there. He rolls out to the right. He looks. He throws deep, and it is batted away. This ball is right into the hands of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bradshaw has. He's at the 25, the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5, the touchdown.
There was no indication whether or not it was a score because nobody saw what took place. So Fred Swearingen, the head official, pulled all the other officials together, and Fred Swearingen said, "What happened?"
In the history of football, when a guy crosses a goal line, it's either a touchdown or it's not. They didn't call it a touchdown. They didn't know if it was a touchdown.
John Madden, the coach of the Oakland Raiders, is down there talking to one of the officials.
I went out. They said, "Get away. We don't know what happened." So now the referee leaves that huddle, and he goes over to the dugout on the Pittsburgh Steelers side, and he gets on the phone, and he makes a call to someone. Then he hangs up. Then he walks out into the middle field and says, "Touchdown," 5 or 10 minutes later. They said that they didn't look at replays. They didn't do anything.
There was a question among the officials as to what the rule was on simultaneous hit.
That's a hell when the goddamn game has to go down to someone up in the first. And I still don't know who he made the call to because I won't admit it. No one knows. Of all the investigations and investigative reporters, no one knows who that guy talked to and what was said on that telephone call. That question has never been answered to this day. You go ask someone.
So still it bothered him all those years later, Rocky, but
I know what
there for that play. I mean, take us through that play, and you guys kind of curtailed him getting to the Hall of Fame. He was going to get there anyway, but to be part of that moment and just take us through what that was like.
Well, I will in a second, but I know what was said on the phone at that time. And Fred Swearingen came over, called upstairs, and they asked what's going on. And he said, that John Madden was, was on his way over. There's bedlam going on around in the end zone. No one saw. Did he hit the ground? Did he hit the ground? Did he catch it? Did it hit Tatum? Did it hit Fuqua? And so this is what was said. What stadium are you in? They hung up the phone, walked over the goal line, threw their arms up, and that's how we won the game. So
all those conspiracy theories and everything are just out the window.
Well, I don't know whether that was the case or so on. But just to go back into that, what had taken place, and and I was on the sideline. Frenchy Fuqua, it was in the game as Franco was, and I was watching it, and then that little film clip, he said, what's going on, and so the clock was ticking down. Bradshaw was dropping back, rolling around, and I said to myself, I can't watch this. And I turned away from the field for a quick moment in there. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I heard was this roar going on. What happened? I don't know. Franco scored. You're kidding me. No. Geez. There was this confusion on the sideline. People were running down into the end zone and jumping on Franco. And so,
but the game didn't end. There was still 5 seconds. How long did it take to clear the field and get everybody going? Because you still had to, they had to kick an extra point and finish it, right?
I don't remember. I mean, in all honesty, I don't remember what had taken place, or even if, to kick the field goal didn't make any difference at the time. And so I think they just let the clock run out, and I don't know whether they even lined up to kick the field goal. So,
well, let's get to Coach Madden and what his legacy in life was like. Did he tease you, or did you tease him over the years? I mean, what were your guys' interactions like after that?
Oh, so I can't say that we had I as a player or any, reaction with Coach Madden at that time. There was a couple things, and there's a couple stories that are interesting, at least within the lore and or within the decision. Now, you have to understand that Al Davis, who was a coach came into the league as a coach of the Oakland Raiders, as a general manager, and then eventually as an owner. But when he was hiring for his new coach, he and Chuck Noll, Al Davis and Chuck Noll, coached together in San Diego. And Al Davis left to go to the American Football League at the time, and Chuck Noll left and went to Baltimore, and he was coaching in Baltimore. So as theory has it, and so on, is that Al Davis called Chuck Noll to be his head coach before he called John Madden over in Oakland. And Chuck's response was, "You nuts?" He said, "I can't work for you. We coached together down there." And he said, we're 180 degree separation in our processes and how we, think that things should be run. He said, I'll never be able to coach for you or work for you. And so that didn't happen, obviously. So in 1969, the Pittsburgh Steelers hired Chuck Noll, and Al Davis hires John Madden. And it turns out to be a great rivalry between those two teams in that part, because of the coaching that we have, because of the players, because of the philosophies, and where we met time after time again in not only in the season, but in the playoffs, or having to go through one of the two teams, to get to the playoffs. And so that was that bound us as a great rivalry. And they were the Raiders, and we hated them. They were a tough, hard-nosed team. We weren't friends with any of those people over there. That was on the West Coast. We're Pittsburgh guys, and so that was it. But I do remember when we were up in Oakland. Could have been 74, 75, and we beat the Raiders to go to the Super Bowl, or to go to to go to the Super Bowl. Anyway, and John Madden, I remember sitting on the bus going out to the airport. John Madden, after the game, came on the bus, and I thought was a great aspect of who he was, and said, "Hey, you guys have one hell of a team, and it's been a pleasure, being able to compete against you guys." And walked off the bus. And I thought, wow, that was really terrific as a head coach, but also as a person to be able to share that.
And I think that you're so lucky because this generation now, the young generation, they know about a video game. The generation before that knows him as a broadcaster, and you knew him as a coach, but you got to see that evolution. What was he like on the sidelines?
Oh, he was well, he was on the opposite side, but he was John Madden. I mean, he was going to be in your face. He was, it was a bigger than life kind of a coach, as you can well see, and kind of stood out. He was, I mean, he was going to argue with the referees and so on, being on the sidelines. And so, otherwise we didn't have much reaction or interaction with one another at that time. But, you just knew that he was, and what he had done was that he was a quality coach. And he knew how to take care of his players, and he had the personnel to be able to win.
Why do you think it took so long for him to get into the Hall of Fame? I mean, he had the best record. He just literally walked. He almost was like Jim Brown. He walked away at the peak and said, "That's it."
That's right. And who knows? I mean,
was it because he's a Raider coach and they hate him? I mean,
who knows? Who knows on that? And but also, sometimes it's like, you get players and players and players, because they had some great players. Obviously, they went to the Hall of Fame, and you kind of get caught in the second guessing by whoever it might be that makes the decisions. Was they get there because of his coaching, or did they get there because of the players that they had, et cetera, et cetera. But the biggest point is that he's in the Hall of Fame, and well deserved to be in the Hall of Fame, however long it took him to get there.
What do you think his lasting impact will be on the league? Because for me, I've seen my kids and younger kids learn how to play football from video games and create ideas. And now you can become coaches because you can create these plays on video game. But again, his on-air persona was so great. So it's all these different things. So what is your lasting memory or the most impactful thing?
Well, if you look at the Raiders or in that organization, and in the lasting memories is that John Madden, I believe, was the longest tenure head coach in that organization, and so he had a presence, and they won. And if you look thereafter, it's always been 2 years, 3 years, a change, 2 years, 3 years, a change, whatever it might be. No one had
scandal. You never know.
You never know what's going on. But what he brought to that organization in the beginning was that he helped establish their history and their image and their success of who they are. So when you think about the Raiders and you think about what they've done, you think about those 70s and those years. And that was John Madden.
Well, Rocky, thank you for joining us, talk a little bit about John and everything. But before you leave, I got to bring up, I was sitting here the other day watching a bowl game, and your name pops up. It was just kind of like, this really cool thing. And I actually taped it off the TV. So I'll let the people watch about this amazing clip from the Northern Illinois quarterback. And this was from the Tailgater Bowl, the Tailgater Cure Bowl just last week.
Right.
That's his 9th rushing touchdown of the year. And a little more about Rocky Lombardi, incidentally. His grandfather, Bob, an Illinois high school coach in the Illinois High School Coaching Hall of Fame. His father, Tony, played at ASU and coached for another 30 years. If you're wondering about the name, let's get this straight because people always ask. Right. He is not related, even though he comes from a coaching family, not related at all to Vince Lombardi. And the name Rocky was not after Rocky Balboa. It was after Rocky Bleier, who was the favorite player of Father Tony. And so he has carried that name ever since. It just flows off the tongue. Rocky Lombardi.
It was so cool to see that. And I mean, it's got to, when you heard about that, what were your thoughts when you heard that somebody had named their son after him? Did you have any tie to him?
No, not none at all. Given the explanation of no relationship with Lombardi, the coach of Green Bay, is that what a great honor and a tribute, and I do say so in all humility and honesty, that what you do maybe had an impact on somebody's life. And obviously from his father, he enjoyed, I guess, maybe the way I played or the way we played, and I was a part of that. So yeah, it really is very humbling to be able to do that. So, but I came from Appleton, Wisconsin. So that's why I thought there was a relationship with Coach Lombardi up there, and but obviously not. So
well, we haven't forgotten you, Rocky. And in fact, we got a book coming out, Pulling Each Other Along book that you're a part of with Doug Cornfield and the Disability Dream and Do folks. So that's coming up. And what else for you? What do you got for speaking and things like that coming up?
Well, let me see. It's a new year. we're starting, and so I got a couple things I'm doing. I had the good fortune of revamping and doing a one-man play that I'll be in Dubuque, Iowa, in January. God, when is it? 28th, 29th, and so performing there. So that's a big thing that I have at least coming up in this month.
All right. Well, Rock, thank you so much for joining us today to talk a little bit about Coach Madden, the legacy he left, and all the great memories and the personal memories that you have with Coach Madden and the Oakland Raiders.
Right.
So God bless you, Rocky.
Thank you, Dave.
Joining us. This is Dave Stevens. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll continue to show breaking news stories as we have them. I'm Dave Stevens. Continue to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those other things. Take care until we see you next time.